The empire, as structured economically, is increasingly unaffordable. The U.S. is throwing away hundreds of billions of dollars, not only in Ukraine, but who knows how many hundreds of billions in NATO. And that's just not the key to the U.S. Imperial structure anymore. There are serious threats and challenges, particularly the BRICS. And we see just lately with talk about the dollar going down and so forth as Commerce Secretary Bessent. So that's really what's behind all this. The U.S. Is looking at restructuring its relationship with Russia along a lot of lines. That the Ukraine finding a solution to the Ukraine war is only one. There's a lot of, I'm sure, discussions going on a whole range of economic and political relationships here. What they really represents as far as Ukraine is there will be a bilateral deal eventually between the U.S. and Russia on Ukraine. The U.S. will leave the proxy role it's been playing in that war. The U.S. will settle with Russia, whether Europe likes it or not. So in the beginning of the end of the U.S. involvement in the war, but I fear we're seeing the beginning of the Europeans taking over that conflict. So the war itself may not end, but the U.S. involvement in it will end. You know, the problem with the Biden administration was they were on a road to more direct conflict with Russia. That was inevitable. Things were just slipping in that direction. And, you know, a lot of folks were being seriously concerned that where this would lead. And the next step, of course, would be deeper American military involvement and European involvement. The Trump administration has backed off of that and said, hey, you know, is that in the interest of the United States or anybody in the world to have this conflict between two nuclear powers? The neocons in the U.S. were even talking about, well, you know, we can win a tactical nuclear war as if that were possible. So, you know, we're coming back from the brink, I think, here with the Trump administration, which, you know, has to be recognized. But there's a long way back from that.
The twilight of American imperialism enables a ready grasp of the major literature of theories of imperialism, Marxist, pro-capitalist, and heterodox, to develop a common definition of the fundamental nature of imperialism in its various dimensions. The trajectory of American imperialism from its colonial origins, offshore expansion offshore from 1898 through World War II, and thereafter from 1945 to the fall of the USSR in 1992, to the period of undisputed American hegemony, up to the 2008 apex of American imperial power. The institutional basis of American global empire after World War II, the U.S. dollars, IMF, World Bank, SWIFT payments system, WTO, free trade treaties, NATO, and other military political alliances, with special focus on the managed dollar and twin deficit systems. The internal contradictions growing within the empire, economically and politically, since the 1980s, and especially intensifying after the 2008-10 global economic crisis. The numerous external forces developing in the 21st century, challenging American global economic and political hegemony. The U.S. domestic indicators of corresponding social decline in America as a consequence of imperial expansion and decay. The U.S. wars of imperial defense in the 21st century, the rise of the global South economically and politically during the period, the BRICS' intensifying challenge to the institutions of American imperial power, and the inevitable retreat and consolidation of remnants of the American empire on the horizon.